oh, I want my team to act, but then suddenly the team obviously has very little experience, and you could definitely see that Ever were full on in synergy with that bar pick.
Yes, they were. Before we carry on with picks and bans, you can see that Ever have removed Zed and Nautilus, Callista, and Alistair have been taken away by Royal Never Give Up. So at least D-Man will be happy that Nautilus isn't there, and maybe Looper's going to play something a bit more aggressive in that top lane.
I mean, this does tell me that Crazy wants to play a pure split pusher this time around, or at least there's a higher chance he's going to aim for it. Zed being banned is purely because it is a possible last pick against the Twisted Fate, which then, funny enough, gets banned away by RNG.
And they want to put Mata on Braum, so they do seem comfortable with him playing a disengaged support. They just don't want to get picked off. That's why they ban out the Thresh. The Zed first ban for me is a little weird though.
Italy is open for MLXG.
Yeah, but they don't care.
If he wants to play it.
We're not in the West here.
Ever first picked Graves.
It's been banned in the other games though.
They stole the Bard.
It went unbanned, unpicked in game 1, and it was first pick Graves for Ares, and then obviously on the reply now, Bard away from Key.
It's all irrelevant. They stole the Bard. What is he going to do right now? Now he will have to play Braum.
Yeah, because they actually banned away Thresh, which is another pick he plays, so Braum is probably going to be the lock-in for him. That does build up a quite strong potential siege comp, especially also if they play Graves again, and you can see with the Ezreal pick, they're kind of like just setting up, okay, 380 carries, we're going to pick Braum as some disengaged support in there, and then just have like a split pushing top lane, and you have a 1-4 setup, where if you get to a tower and there's no hard engage available, you will destroy that tower. The problem is there's a Lissandra and Bard already, which starts fights really well.
This is one of these instances where a team reveals their hand very early on and just relies on the fact that the other opposing squad will kind of can't do anything about it anymore, because they can't pick the Braum, which is the traditional counter to these heavy siege.
RNG's getting everything.
Then they go, but RNG go for the Nidalee here, but if they don't find really the hard engage though, that Nidalee doesn't offer much into a poke siege comp though.
You have Bard and Lissandra though. To me, that is plenty of setup. Bard ulti into TP coming from a Lissandra from a side lane, or if she's the mid lane or wave clearing, that's your hard engage, and you're gonna have so much pressure in the early game because Nidalee is so good. In the start, and MLXG will be in your face over and over and over. Graves has received quite a few nerfs.
Yeah.
He's not as strong in that early stage. He's still good, obviously, mainly just a very good team fighter at this point.
So would you say it's fair to say at this point both teams have got tools to counter their opponents?
I don't think there's any counters.
RNG is currently way ahead in the draft phase.
Yeah, I don't see any counters from Ever in what they're building.
So not counter champion, counter in play style or decision.
They just have a strong strategy that they can pull off, and yes, you can Bard ulti, but the problem what I have here is like on that Bard ulti, there's, except for the Lissandra, no follow-up. So I would have liked to see maybe a Gragas to like be another conditional engage, because Bard ulti is really hard to land, and if later on some members get Q assessed, then suddenly the Lissandra will be useless, and then you can get unpunished poke siege. The Vladimir is just a complete surprise though. This is, I need like a second.
Now this is something that Ever have played a few times, and it's somewhat of an Ever special maybe. Over in the Korean challenger scene, they play some weird and wonderful things. I actually think they played a Malzahar as well fairly recently.
It's a blind pick Vladimir though, and Vladimir's laning phase is definitely not great. You need levels under your belt, especially ranks in the queue to get the cooldown down. You don't really have a whole lot to offer the first 15, 20 minutes almost, and with the likes of Quinn and Fiora and so on available, you have a losing 1v1 now. It's obviously looking like a lane swap.
Yeah, but Vladimir in a lane swap?
Yeah, that's actually also
sounds ultimately horrendous.
So,
like,
I mean,
look at
got
the team.
bad and bad.
No, I agree. I'm definitely not disagreeing here. Like, don't get me wrong. Vladimir's just a horrible pick. Like, I don't get it, because he loses lane to Quinn. I don't see how Quinn can ever lose this lane. You have to like misclick on creeps multiple times to actually lose trades with this Vladimir. And then later on, Vladimir doesn't even have anybody to lock down the champions in the team fight for him. He can literally only walk in and use his body as zone. It's like, I'm coming at you guys, run away. I'm a pool of blood.
He's weak at everything here. He's a bad front line. He's never going to really be able to get a massive ulti off, as Prepper just said.
Okay.
He's split pushing, yeah, he gets strong in the late game, but a Quinn can just roam from you and then join his team, and then Vladimir is stuck there.
Gentlemen,
super late game, he's hard to kill.
Am I correct to predict both of you feel Royal Never Give Up are going to win this game?
Up until the last pick, I thought I was rooting forever, man. I had this like triple siege, Braum in the middle, the Bard force bait. But yeah, I think RNG will win this.
All the build-up, you're like, yeah, well, you stole.
I mean, definitely if this is standard lanes, RNG is going to completely stomp them. Like, they have stronger 2v2, stronger 1v1 top. If it is a lane swap, obviously, depending on how much they mess up, I'm still not buying it. I think they're going to take the game.
Well, there you go. Analysts have predicted it. RNG to take the game. We're going to head over to the caster desk to get us into it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and welcome to the commentary desk. If you don't know who I am Uber. I'm joined, of course, by Monte Cristo.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I tell you what, on the desk, you look very, very happy, of course, with the results. Everything kind of played out the way you thought it would.
Well, I think Royal's going to give, take the win here. I do agree with what our expert desk was saying. I've seen the Vladimir before from Ever. It has not impressed me, and I think they're going to have a lot of trouble if these standard lanes do end up taking place.
Well, there they are on your screen. It's ESC Ever and RNG. We're onto the Rift here, of course, ESC, starting on the blue side. You voiced some concerns, Monty, early on here, expecting maybe that we might see ESC go for a lane swap here.
Well, they have to do something, and Vlad isn't great into these lane swaps, but I think it's the only way they can actually survive. We talk about Royal and their ability to play these standard lanes and absolutely dominate them. I think the key is whether Ever can actually set up this siege, because one thing that Royal may have some trouble with, actually, is clearing waves where Lucian is not. Of course, the relatively low range on Lissandra Q means she has to walk up. It can provide opportunities to poke, and with 380 carries, that's a real threat.
Well, Xiaohu does have the potential to do a bit of split pushing and wave clear himself, but obviously not as abundantly as some of the other champions we've seen so far here. So far, we can see that Lupa's headed up towards the top side, and Marta and looks just set up here as well. Wushin, as I've been informed his name is correctly pronounced. No really deep forays here. This is probably the first push we're seeing forward. It's Loken and Kia making their way towards the jungle.
Yeah, but the lane swap has been snuffed out right now. We actually are going to see Looper recalling immediately. Deep wards coming in from Ever as a response, but the wards at the choke doing some work right now, and Ever actually going to walk around. They're looking to see if the lane swap is there and whether they can punish this. They'll probably just take the small Krug and back off. Nope, they're going to do the whole camp. So nothing here to actually stop them at the present time, and they are actually going to successfully lane swap the recall from Looper just to join up with his jungler, but he's going to be a little bit delayed.
Krug's now going to be taken away, of course, by the bottom top lane of RNG, and Ares and Crazy will stick together for the moment here. That Vladimir pick, going to be interested to see how that sort of plays into things here, as Lupa and MLXG, of course, will also be buddying up here with Lupa absconding from the top lane.
Yeah, and this is an interesting start to this lane swap, because we do see the Nidalee and Quinn from Royal. They're going to go ahead and take that Raptor camp, which means they are going to be a camp ahead just because of the way that we are going to see the invade going down. Also, since the Krugs were taken, it's just a little bit more jungle here for Royal early on in this game. But a lot of that's going to be respawned by the time we move through to the actual tower push here. But we should see, Ever just take the top side of the jungle, and Royal will clean up on the bottom side.
It's going to be interesting to see MLXG as well. On this Nidalee pick, it's a bit of a knife edge for him. We've seen him play Graves in 7 out of 8 games in the LPL. I know 7 out of 8 games, should I say. And when he plays that Graves, he's farming up a lot. But we probably should expect to see some real early aggression here now, as again, a little bit behind the 8 ball. RNG going to press on towards this bottom outer turret and just mirror things across the map.
Yeah, I wasn't really impressed with Ares Graves' play. I mean, we do see a lot of Rek'Sai out of him in the challenger scene in Korea. And he really he got caught out a little bit, had to use his ult in very suboptimal ways in their last game. Of course, a lot of that was due to him being behind, but Ever going to have to wait until the next wave here to go ahead and pressure this turret. So Royal, though, we'll see if they can keep up that tempo, because that was, as Deficio was mentioning, the big factor in their last game was that they were just a little bit slower, emphasizing wards in the enemy jungle instead of actually pushing. And that was the cause of that huge early deficit. But it's something I think that a guy as smart as Mata, now that he's seen that and experienced it, something they can adjust to.
Whereas, let's flip the coin. Of course, ESC Ever actually struggled to make their impact felt in the start of their game against TSM. We know how that went. We won't elaborate. But a lot of their ganks were quite telegraphed, or at least read into easily.
Yeah, and they've switched it up, though. we don't see the double teleport, of course, with the TF not being able to be played in this game, so they may just try and play a more even-paced game this time around. It would be nice to see them with a little bit less aggression, but the way Ever tends to go is just play balls to the wall in the early game, and their shot calling really only comes together very, very late after they make a lot of mistakes, and then finally Crazy can set up that split push, but that's just not going to happen here with Royal on basically a 1-3-1 composition with the Quinn and the Lissandra.
And Marta more than happy for the moment to leave Wushin top side as he does roam, gets on boards down, and Key is there to try and do some housework. He may even press forward. MLXG's off towards the side, and he comes forward. He wanted to go for that wolf there, but Ares will get the quick smite.
We are going to see a 1v1 in this bottom side. Sometimes, actually, teams in Korea, most notably the Rocks Tigers like to do this with Ezreal, which is in a lane swap situation, they'll go ahead and leave the 1v1 and not push it because he's going to need to stack up that tier, and then they swap usually Gorilla up into this top side. So this is usually, but we're going to see a TP coming in.
Oh, this could be a bit of a Looper special here in towards the backside of Xiaohu, though, coming forward. He wants to try and lock up Key Crazy Aries. 3-man snare and First Blood. He's going to go over towards Mata. It looks like ESC. They're not going to press forward onto this one any further.
Yeah, and that's a great response there from Royal. They're going to punish the freeze in the bottom side with a very aggressive teleport into that top side. And because Key and Aries were not there underneath the turret to defend the dive, there was no protection, and that's an easy First Blood.
Yeah, we have seen teleports deep go wrong for RNG in the past, but this time it's all coming up good. But there's going to be a teleport towards the top side. Crazy is going to set up here, and you saw RNG were off towards the side, but with the minion wave quite low, they'll back away and allow Looper just to give some ground.
All right, so interesting stuff. Now, Ever has come out at a gold deficit because of this, as we are going to take a look at this. I mean, just a great cutoff there from MLXG and Mata. Pretty easy just to get the claw in. 3-man W, Ever grouping up a little bit too much right there, and pretty simple kill, all things considered. But Ever actually sticking around right there and waiting till the TP completes to actually defend that turret. And Loken now still just sitting with this freeze. Now, it is worth noting that he has fallen a bit behind on CS, but it should be useful for him to do this as long as that turret in the top lane doesn't die. They may be able to sort of squeak back a gold advantage eventually from the farm.
Well, Aries just making his presence felt there, coming forward and just keeping MLXG honest for the moment, as RNG already looking to try and forge some advantages where they can. Another little bit of a weird lane swap scenario. We actually see this more from Chinese teams, actually. Chaogu, RNG, another one team who sort of doesn't even like to go for the swap most times. But Mata does want to head topside. Crazy already looking into that one. Going to be able to back away. It's still, though, going to be another wave before Looper can have that top outer turret.
Well, the problem with this Vladimir right now is, does he have great wave clear in the late game? Yes, he does, but you actually have to get some levels into that Tides of Blood in order for him to have it, and you're usually so fixated on maxing Q in the early game, that's not going to happen. A little bit of skirmishing here.
Chaohu going to be able to get away with the Glacial Path. It's all about transfusion, as you said, Monty, for Crazy right now. So he'll stack levels in, wait for that level 9, and going to give him plenty of sustain, and be very, very annoying to shift in that top lane or wherever he may roam.
At least there's a little bit of a break here for Ever as the double TPs are down, so they don't have to be quite so concerned. But Aries is still going to have to be tracking that top side. And it's very important that Aries is able to start taking out some of these pink wards in the top rivers so that Looper is not able to play quite as aggressively as we've seen from him so far.
Loken now just taking it easy here as Woox is going to put a little bit of damage across towards him. You can see Mata just off towards the side, and he is an aggressive support. He loves to come forward, make the plays, and open things up for Woosh in here, but the ward drop right at his feet, will spot him out. Aries now just going to be working over on this blue buff. Is Crazy at least working the top side here. So both sides going to adjourn for a moment. Bit of a lull as they do collect those buffs up. And we'll see them collect together again. It's a true shot barrage just being fired by Loken there. It's not a great effect.
Yeah, it's tough now forever because they have to stop this push in the top side. It should be of utmost importance for them to actually keep their top lane turret up. But because Aries is just floating up in the top side of the jungle right now, MLXG is going to have some free time. They have the vision down there to be able to steal this red buff, and they're getting that preferable 2v2 of the Lucian Bard into the Ezreal Braum. So the freeze was ultimately very ineffective, and that's, you know, definitely causing some issues right now.
And we do have a bit of a poor screen, ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't notice. Here is the teams will just take a moment. And it's not a bad one to take stock of things here as well, because despite there not being huge amounts of fights, a lot of movements around the map back and forth here. One thing to point out, of course, is that Tempt has managed to amass a little bit of a lead against Xiaohu in the mid. It's 73 to 57 CS, and we saw already on camera another one of those aggressive trades coming from him, assisted by Aries in the mid.
Yeah, and that's a saving grace right now. That's what's actually keeping ESC Ever in this game. They've actually have that gold deficit that they had before, but without the control over the bottom side or the ability to shove Woosh and Mata out of that sort of deep position, thanks to the pressure from MLXG, it's been a little bit rough. So I'm not sure. The problem is I don't know what the end game here is for Ever. Vladimir, with this particular composition, with 380 reached across the board. Key maybe lagging a little bit behind in that department, but they also want to scale. I mean, going hard with this Ezreal early can be a little bit of an error, and they have to be careful too because now both teleports back up for Royal, and Ever is just, this is very different than the playstyle that we saw with the Twisted Fate in the last game, and instead they're just playing it very, very passively, not really looking to make any kind of plays.
Yeah, I mean, the little freeze that Lupa set up on the top side as well seems to be starting to pay dividends now. He's almost got that 20 CS lead on his lane opponent of Crazy, who is actually being very, very careful about where he goes. Of course, it's the point of a freeze. And I mean, that Vlad can't really get to grips with those minions in the top lane for the moment here. Now Marta and MLXG towards the mid side here. There's a ping on the bot lane as well. They know Loken's down there. I don't really know if they're going to try and turn the heat up here. Ultimates are up for most of RNG and ESC. There's level 6s are coming in, so we can expect to see the fireworks start pretty soon as Crazy does pop his head back up top, but is quickly sent packing.
Yeah, and that CS difference really start to rear its ugly head. They've actually swapped now Lissandra down into the bottom side of the map around that turret, and they're having Whoosh here. They're actually afraid of the grouping now in the mid lane that can occur because, of course, they are all pushed backwards. Yep. So there is a possibility they could go, it'd be a little bit early to siege on this mid lane turret, but I like what we've seen Ever do, which has been slowly clear out the wards in their side of the jungle and then push up with some deep vision of their own, but they're not actually capitalizing on it. Now they've lost pretty much everything that they've spent the last few minutes doing, and MLXG just going to use that in Italy to take a solo dragon.
Let's see, wards being cleared as well. Marta is doing a little bit of housework around that one, and ESC, well, they're going to respond, well, they know, with a very, very healthy Rift Scuttler. And Ares will pick that one up here. So RNG as well also do like that Rift Herald, so don't expect that to be sat and left alone for a while. They do like to just push a tower down in a lane, then go for the Rift Herald, then maybe push mid or something. But here's Xiaohu bottom. So for a pink ward is continuing to try and push this one.
Yeah, and he's going to actually be able to get this turret here pretty easily. You see the Thunderlord's proc coming through. And there it goes, just to the minion wave. Vladimir's still only level 7, so not clearing it out particularly efficiently. And Royal just getting every advantage. And I'm quite disappointed. Ever had such, like I said, did a methodical job of cleaning up the wards in their jungle and deporting themselves. And then they just didn't play around it. They fell back on the map. They played way too cautiously considering the information that they had when they could have just kept on pressuring the bottom side and actually just sat right in the bottom side jungle of Royal. See a little bit trading action here.
Xiaohu not quite strong enough to be split pushing that one out on his own, as Tempt is able to send him packing with a fair bit of damage across, and MLXG was waiting in the wings in case he was required, but now a bit of a grouping towards the top side here. Lupa now got a bit of a spring in his step. He's got that CS lead. He wants to be that split pushing menace, and this is a good way to do it by getting ahead here. He's always got MLXG. Walks is moving forward, and yeah, it's going to be that Rift Herald take.
I mean, this is exactly the opposite of what we saw from Ever, where in the TSM game, did they play overly aggressively? Absolutely. Was that a huge error? Yes, it was. Yeah. You see the Herald reset just a little bit here. But this time, they're not contesting any objective. They're not defending their vision. And every time, Mata and MLXG are able to get in, get superior wards, and cleared it out basically for free.
It's like night and day here for ESC now, as they are again back to Wales. A cosmic binding, a warning shot fired from Mata. And ESC are going to be forced on back now towards the mid lane yet again, with that Rift Herald being picked up for MLXG. Of course, he can lend a little bit of extra weight to trying to shove down some of those towers. Of course, there's only been 3 towers taken for the whole game. RNG do have that lead, but again, not a huge on-paper lead for them in general. They're looking to forge some advantages now. Check that red, but Ares is there. He would like to be left alone if that's okay.
Yeah, he doesn't have any smite, though, but they're not going to actually challenge this too much. Still playing pretty methodically, but look at what Royal's doing. They're getting deep wards in the top side, immediately just running through the mid lane, and then getting the wards on the bottom side of the map at the same time. That, I'm not sure what that ult was supposed to do.
No, that was interesting there. Little cosmic binding there is going to catch Ares and Key together, and of course, a magical journey. Ares thinks twice about following him into the unknown. MLXG Marta now can back away. RNG, they want to push with impunity. I'm sure Xiaohu would like to be a bit more comfortable on the bottom side. Get some deep vision, RNG, and they'll be able to set themselves up to start to shove those waves in.
Looks like they're playing a bit too cautiously. I mean, having this Ezreal in the mid lane isn't going to provide you with very many advantages at this extremely early stage. Waveclear pretty much just limited to his ultimate right now, and they're insisting on having this Corki low block matchup. Certainly it's given them some CS leads, of course, just with a longer range from Corki. in the first parts of this game. Now he has the Hex Drinker, so going to be doing very well. And they have to basically make it, I think, to 3 or 4 items here and hope that Royal messes up their split push in the interim. Once the QSSs and I think the Maws are there, they're going to be in a good place. Now, before that happens, they're sort of just hemorrhaging objectives and playing without, they're not playing decisively enough with the vision that they have.
Drop by drop. Again, that vision sort of going to waste a little bit, and unsurprisingly, Aries is pretty adamant on staying in that jungle, farming up for as long as he possibly can. And conversely, we're seeing the same thing from MLXG, actually. Both these junglers just wanting to get themselves plenty of farm, plenty of goldie before they start going for those fights. By the looks of things here, these two teams, almost a gentleman's agreement to play this lane swap out and just keep moving across the map, wave after wave in. This is that kind of whole map, I guess, macro play we've come to be used to.
Yeah, now the question, though, is what are they going to do? Because, well, it looks like they're not going to freeze in the bottom side, but certainly they need to freeze around this Vladimir. So Tempt actually is going to try and provide pressure so that they don't just group on this mid lane and decide to perhaps dive it. And even though they are a squishy composition, the amount of mobility that they have with Sandra in Italy could make that a pretty real threat. They have to come over now. Mata actually caught out a little bit.
Package being used, special delivery for Mata, and he might be in trouble here. He tried to hold himself, but it's not going to be good enough. Xiaohu comes forward though, double snare, and MLXG makes good on that one, but a teleport's coming in from the top side here as well. They might soon be cornered, but Wooks, he's going to get the exhaust, flashes over the pit there. Crazy's going to want to follow, but MLXG is there. Can they hold him back? No, the blood pool comes out. Crazy gets the kill, and now Xiaohu being knocked up there by the Glacial Fisher. Looper's in the backside. He's got no teammates with him. Where's the follow-up? He's going to try and do as much as he can. Will it be enough? Key's going to fall down too, and MLXG does take care of that. Ezreal, what a bloody fight.
Yeah, just madness kind of across the board, but teleporting Vladimir at this point of the game with just a will of the ancients is not something you're particularly afraid of, but props to MLXG. Basically, after we saw the Vlad flash into the pit, he immediately just pops out the other side in order to continue that fight. Otherwise, it could have gone disastrously, but MLXG really able to skirmish alongside Xiaohu right there and actually finish up a play that started looking like it was not going to be going so well for Royal.
Yeah, fortunate for Royal to be able to salvage that one in the final moments, and it's almost as if we start to build up towards a critical mass. It's a very placid rip, but here's the fight.
Yeah, if we take a look at this, I mean, Mata just walks back in, and Tempt has the package, so Mata in a lot of trouble, and then, of course, the Graves Q coming through to deal so much of that damage. Xiaohu gets a good double W, quadra U, if you will, but it's just, Crazy's just faster here. He has a better position for the collapse. So Whoosh is actually going to come in. There's the flash over. It's the only tool Vladimir had. Flash over from Tempt as well. He doesn't have his W. But MLXG pops out the backside, Looper on the flank. And remember, no one is else left out of the Dragon Pit right there. Ever just should have disengaged as soon as they committed to that. Because right there, the proper play is pick up the kills you can on Ever, walk to the mid lane with your siege composition and knock down that mid turret. There is no way they can get an angle to defend their mid tier 1 in that situation.
Interesting stuff there. The tendency just, you got two teammates stuck in the pit and they went for it either way, but again.
Yeah, no, that is just the perfect time to just go into that mid lane because they're deep in your jungle and there's just not much they can do about that. There's nobody left to wave clear. You killed their only wave clear.
A chance for ESC to extend some control there being squandered, and they're going to have to find it some other way here. MLXG and Lupa are going to go for this blue invader. It's just Aries now coming forward. He's not able to do much about it, and MLXG comes away with a very fashionable blue ring, and it's going to be another Rift Herald here for RNG. Didn't do a whole lot with it last time that we could really see, but see they're starting to ramp up in gear.
Right, the scary thing is this Quinn. I mean, already 50 CS up in a matchup that will be impossible for Crazy to split push in. And how is Crazy actually going to have an effect on this game? He basically, he's a level down to, what are you going to do here? Unless your siege composition can really start to knock down turrets, the 380 carries, but they just haven't been setting up for that.
Well, we do see collateral damage actually being used to secure that red buff, but now Xiaohu might be caught. He does manage to get the frozen tune towards Tempt. He backs away, but Looper, he's always there at the backside. He's going to cut off Tempt from any hope of salvation. Xiaohu takes that one away. Key, maybe a bit of a disengaged attempt there with Glacial Fisher. It's going to work for the most part, but a good pick off for RNG, and the control they have now is going to start to hurt.
Now, fighting that was a mistake. Looper was the one who still had teleport available, and he got in there, did the damage that he needed to do to tempt, and Crazy just couldn't follow that at all. So just defend the turrets that you have already. It has to be a late game play here forever, but every time they make a mistake about when they're fighting or how to fight, or instead of fighting at all, turning into that mid lane turret, they fall further and further behind.
And the light at the end of that late game window gets further and further away. That's what they're banking on.
Dwindling into the distance right now. Ares here, you know, especially because he used his ult to secure the red buff. Now, Tempt has cleanse, so he's going to be able to get out of this situation. But the Valk already used. Remember that he doesn't have flash. He used it in that last team fight to get into the Dragon Pit. So Looper has a great TP flank right here, easily able to 1v1. And just back away from this position. But it's something you shouldn't be doing in the first place. You should be happy you got that red buff and just walk away, wave clear. That's what you need to do.
And the rest of ESC just a little bit too late to the party now. It's not too late for them as a whole, but that advantage starting to slip well and truly away. If we take stock of things, it's about a 3k gold lead to RNG. And of course, that extra turret definitely helping out in that regard. They have a moment here, a brief respite. Again, clearing wards around the middle of the map. You can see that there's a desire to move that battle line up forwards, take control, and start to punish ESC more and more for mistakes like we just saw.
I think Ever has a shot if Royal tries to do a Baron. Like, Royal actually should not be trying to go for a Baron this game. They are too squishy,
like you said.
and the poke composition would be absolutely brutal if they got caught in the pit. So they need to be very careful about it. They're going to go on to Crazy, though.
Blood pool being used by Crazy should be enough to get him away, but there's a Frozen 2 coming down now. Xiaohu wants to try and finish it off, but again, now taking tower hits, flashes forward. Ring of Frost is going to secure the kill. He'll be able to back away with his life for the moment. Blue Trinket going to spot out Marta waiting in the wings here, and this is RNG. Now they're starting to flex their muscles, and they want this bottom inner turret.
Yeah, Vladimir is too far behind. That True Shot Barrage going to do something, but they're still going to take a tower. So Royal really making the most out of the 1v1 outplay. Looper just left alone in the mid lane. Wow, just the defense here. Even though Ever does have a pretty substantial amount of wave clear, they are just committing way too hard to Royal's play, and they just look scared, honestly.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost as if they've been burnt by what they tried to do against TSM, and maybe in their heads they're thinking, we only won that game because we managed to get lucky, or we heard Key's interview. He didn't even know why they won. It'd probably help if ESC did know, because right now they're looking very different, and they're looking far more reluctant to actually try and exercise their presence across this map. No matter what lane or part, they just seem to always be on the back foot, and someone always left behind.
I think the pendulum has just swung way too far the other way. They've gone from sort of mindlessly aggressive to mindlessly passive. And you don't want to be anywhere in the mindless category, but certainly never in one of those two extremes between aggression and passivity. So they haven't been able to use any of their power spikes. We're seeing them with a lot of items that could be very useful right now. Ares now moving to the Maw, also has the Hex Drinker. They've got the Corki with the Trinity Force. They have the Muramana onto Loken alongside the Iceborne Gauntlet. They need to start doing something and grouping to Siege, but they don't have pressure in order to do that because this Vladimir is too damn far behind.
And you can see Ares' mindset, how keen he is to farm over fight when he's going to use collateral damage to secure that red buff and then obviously give up a teammate in the process. Looked like things might have got a little bit close for comfort there, but Looper again, he's looking for Crazy. He doesn't have a tower to hide under. This could be ugly for the men. He's going to try and back away. And of course, being Vlad always has a few escape tools at his disposal.
Yeah, it does, but he only has a Rylai's now, so he's building actually to peel in team fights, but he also has no armor from the Zhonya's in order to actually deal with this split push. So it's sort of something he's going to inevitably rather lose.
Oh dear. There's the attempted fake coming on towards Key, and he is caught for a second. Where's the follow-up though? Occultic binding, no stun. There comes the Glacial. Fisher, he backs away. Xiaohu going to use that Zhonya's Hourglass, but Looper might be the focus here. Good True Shot Barrage, but Xiaohu read that well. Did use his ultimate there. Wushin takes down Key. Now Wushin trying to back away. LNXG doing the same. Hemo Plague ticking on him. We'll have to see if he can survive it. Looks like he can as Marta takes the trip out. And ESC, all of a sudden, get a little bit of a pick, and they might be able to work this turret down.
Yeah, they actually used their TP advantage there in order to make that play. But most importantly was that Crazy actually got the shutdown gold onto Xiaohu, which is absolutely huge when he's so far behind. So we look at the start of this, and they try and actually lock down Key here. He's the only one because Loken just goes ahead and flashes out. So at this point, the Bard ult's not going to be doing much. Unbreakable comes out immediately thereafter. Xiaohu is way out of position right there, and they're trying to fight poke with poke. The problem is those 3 AD carries are going to be more dominant in this situation. It was a really good flash to have a 4-man W, but there just wasn't the follow-up. The poke had already come through, and the lack of tanks there I think is starting to hurt Royal. They don't want to be committing to these team fights. They just want to split push. They shouldn't be drawn into any kind of engagement.
And they were. Mata tried to set things up there. It wasn't a pick they were looking for. They were looking for more than one. If they could have, obviously it was just Key that got caught, and obviously things were turned on the Xiaohu pretty darn quickly. 4 to 7 in kills here, and that gold lead actually is still considerable as RNG were able to back away, not losing more casualties than they did. I think the MLXG was incredibly low. Speaking of the man, he's going to have to back away from the jungle here as ESC now decide to plant their flag.
Yeah, the last tier 1 still up in the bottom side. Ever trying to play around this Vladimir, thinking that maybe they can get a little bit of farm on him, but that CS differential continues to grow in favor of Looper. He can just be out on the map so much more. Another
Again.
collateral damage used, but nothing gained.
Well, it looks flashy. I'll give him that.
It does. He gets the style points, but unfortunately, if you want a team fight right after that, that may not be the wisest idea. And they're just going to check that right there with the Nidalee Spear, get some damage down, but they're going to have to back out. And TP actually coming in. Oh, wow. They're going to try and corner them.
Yeah, we're going to see what, I think it was Looper trying to get there as well. Tempt
is not there.
And there's Mata wanting to chase on him. They may have caught him. He's going to Valkyrie over in towards the red pit. But here comes the chase. The culling comes out. Ares is at least there. But look at that. How deep does Xiaohu want to go? He's caught up the backline really nicely. But Loken goes straight in for the throat. He gets on towards Wuxin now. And there's the Tempered Fate locking up Xiaohu and Ares. Looper off towards the side, but a double kill coming out from MLXG. Xiaohu wants to come forward again. This could be nasty. Looper is in the mix, looking for crazy. The blood pool got him out, but not for long enough. And that's the ace, the triple kill for MLXG.
And that was a great collapse coming in because Tempt wasn't there, and because of the positioning that they were able actually to just siphon Tempt off the side, and that meant that everyone from Ever had to come into the jungle in order to actually fight this. They're very concerned with what's going to be happening to them once the TP, the double TP actually comes through. So Tempt gets caught out, he has to W over, and the best thing Ever could do here, you cannot fight in the jungle against this Lissandra and this Nidalee. And great positioning from Xiaohu, zones them out from on the side of this fight, and these little skirmishes just working in Royal's favor. They have so much mobility with the Nidalee pounce, of course the Glacial Path to get over all of these objectives, and it was just divide and conquer there from Royal, and Ever just should have let Tempt die and just tried to run out back down the top lane.
Loken went very deep into that one as well. He tried to 1v1 the back line, and well, it worked out a little bit, but again, Sandra able to keep so many of ESC busy. And now again, a lull. RNG probably happy with that one. When we said ESC, they want to use their globals off cooldown. They want to get the teleports in. RNG displaying that same tendency there. Both their mid laner and top laner are using the TPs at the same time, just to create the fight.
Yeah, they set it up nicely, and it really was the interception of Tempt there and blowing his flash and his Valkyrie before that fight even began that turned the tides. But Xiaohu, again, just showing up. His positioning has been very good on the Lissandra in these team fights. Even in the fight that Royal lost in the mid lane, he still was showing some prowess in terms of just landing those big Ring of Frost.
Generally, Xiaohu getting fed less gold than the rest of his teammates on average, but he's a great enabler and initiator, as we saw there. He kept Tempt very busy, but now, of course, it's 6 kills to 12, and RNG a little bit back and forth here, of course, as RNG able to make good on that last fight. Teleports are, of course, now on cooldown, but both teams just posturing towards this Baron a bit. You saw the blue trinket being used on that one, as the teams just want to make sure it's safe passage.
I think it's Ever. They just have to hope that they're going to try and all in on this Baron and throw it in some fashion. But Royal has these opportunities. There's still no armor on Crazy. Yeah. He has nothing. He built a cowl. I just have nothing to say to that. Like, how are you going to stop this split push? You can't. So Royal just has to play this game until the TP comes back up, and they're going to be in a even more advantageous situation.
And this is just what Looper wants. Seriously, he's living the dream right now. He got that early farm. He froze deep on his own side of the map, and now it takes more than Crazy to deal with him. He's going to be drawing attention of multiple Ever players towards that bottom side, and that is just compounding the problems that ESC are already having now. Ares even getting a love tap from the Javelin there, at least able to secure blue, but it didn't go towards Tempt.
I don't know what to say. You have a Maw on Looper. You have no armor items. Of course, you really want that Spirit Visage for the healing bonus, but in this particular situation, you're not going to be doing much with it, and you have to have that survivability or some way to stop the split push from a Quinn who's already 75 CS in the lead.
Blue buff now being looked at, of course. MLXG taking it away. It wasn't taken away earlier, is my mistake. And we do see, yeah, Xiaohu sitting inside the base. It looked like he may have been wanting to make a teleport play. He's just up. Lupus is not. But he'll opt simply to walk out. Old-fashioned. Again, we see Lupa, the montage, as he just flies up between his part of the jungle, pushing it in.
Yeah, Xiaohu with the distortion boots. So he's going to be able to get that teleport off cooldown just a little bit quicker and try and make those plays. Certainly, like, he's looking for it again. They really just want to force the issue. This is smart from Royal. They know they can't get a Baron unless they get kills, which is exactly the situation that they should be in right now.
There's a teleport coming in, I think. Yes, indeed. Looper actually got crazy in the bottom side, so that's a split push threat. Really showing up. Xiaohu gets in towards the back. He's going to use the Frozen Tomb on himself, and there's Lasagna. And now Ares has to back away. He can't do anything right now. He's off towards the side. Logan's got to get jumped on by MLXG, but he's not that tanky right now. A little bit fragile, but he's still got to survive. Huge play from Wushin. Triple kill, and that surely is going to be a big nail in that Ever coffin.
That was perhaps the best thing that could have happened for Royal. You actually kill Crazy, the one with his TP available in the 1v1 in the bottom side, and then you just run Quinn with the use of her ultimate into that team fight, and just a great setup onto these very squishy carries coming out of Ever, and that's probably just going to be the game.
I think they're going to push forward on this one as well. 31 minutes into the game, and those death timers are oppressively high for ESC Ever. It does look like RNG. They're pressing forward. They're looking at the Nexus, and they'll have their cake and eat it too. Welcome to the semi-finals. Royal never give up.
Wow, great play from Royal, honestly, in that game. We saw them fix that early game lane swap that gave them the deficit. Really nice teleport play and skirmishing it. You know, I just love watching MLXG. He's one of my favorite players in the LPL to watch these days because he's so impressive mechanically, and he works so well with Mata. Just great vision control. Solid play here, but Ever, they have to find that spark again, because I don't really know what this team composition was designed to do. And beyond that, they were so afraid of actually taking objectives. And by the time they were trying to play in the mid game, they were just too far behind to make it work.
It's maybe not the first time today that we've seen a team draft a composition with an objective in mind and then not play to that one. We saw the same from TSM, and it was actually Ever who were able to capitalize on that one. But now, of course, they will be going down to the lower match. We still need to see who's going to be going up against them. But enough from us here at the desk. Let's pass it over to our experts to put this one under the microscope.
So, let me see if I remember. It was Sean's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drafts from ESC Ever
I'll just
are
find it.
probably one of the best in the world. Hope they will show it this tournament.
May Sean's
I mean, he did say
rest
hope.
in peace.
He did say hope. Okay, he did say hope. So blind pick Vlad didn't work. Triple AD carry.
I mean, blind pick Vlad would never work in like a million years. It did absolutely nothing.
Why are you hitting on Vladimir?
Yeah, okay, right.
Sure, yeah,
I was trying to poke some fun at Sean's, but it just came apart at the seams. Again, we see the strengths and weaknesses of both teams. And does it boil down to just the draft, or is there more to it than just that, Deficio?
I mean, I think the draft doesn't help Ever at all in this case, because you get the Vladimir blind pick. Quinn gets picked into. Lupo is a great Quinn player. I think RNG just got so many good picks for themselves. Also, Xiaohu on the Lissandro had great impact in team fights. I mean, just the Quinn matchup is just impossible for Vladimir to do anything.
Yeah. And then there's just a whole lot of missed opportunities on both sides this game. So often, there's a reason this game went on a little bit stale for a while, because both teams weren't quite finding the right answer. At multiple points, bot lane could base, rotate top, siege a tower, but they just really weren't going for those moves. It looked like RNG was actually going for a 5-dragon type of closure at one point. We were joking about it, and then the joke seemingly became more real and real as the game went on. And then eventually, obviously, Ever started fumbling in these team fights, but it's just a rough game. And there was this period. This is where I feel like what Prawley feels when he watches SK2 drafts. Like, when I watch Mata play, I don't know if I am right to criticize him or if I just don't see the beauty and the genius in his plays. Because he got Swiftness boots and a Ruby Crystal and one pink ward. And then he changes the trinket into a sweeper. So which meant he basically was on the map with one pink ward for like 6 minutes. He would move into every deep bush in the jungle, but he couldn't ward him because he literally had no wards. So I'm like, is this revolutionary vision control, or should Mata just buy a damn sidestone? I don't know. Maybe later this tournament I will find out.
Well, I hope so. We got a couple of replays lined up. The first one is just a well-executed tower dive very early on in the matchup. Let's pull that up onto your screen. And Deficio, you quite like the setup here from RNG. Break down what it was that you were looking at.
So basically the setup here from Ever is they put Ezreal bot lane in a frozen wave, something their Korean teams like to do with Blue Bill Ezreal. That does mean, however, the enemy top lane is sitting against you with teleport, and he can always just join on the other side of the map and actually dive whoever is sitting there defending. And in this case, it is our best friend, Vladimir.
Yep. He does actually, to his defense, play it well, because the teleport comes in, he dodges the Q right here, he's going to pull into it, then flash, but then Jahu also has a teleport, gets a 3-man snare, and at that point, yeah, 5 versus 3 is a little bit too much to bear. But it required perfect execution. I think they might be used to pulling this play against a non-teleport mid laner, or they're not used to the teleport mid laner with another gap closer joining that fight because they felt like they could escape there. But yeah, it's needlessly risky to do it. Like,
yeah.
Why commit for that? Like, why freeze? At least push out your lanes, protect the weak asset in your team. Like this Vladimir, if he's the cornerstone of your composition, defend him. Don't put him down in the dumpster against the Quinn matchup.
Well, we'll carry on talking about this in just a moment. Shox is already on stage to chat to the winners.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. I am joined here by Mata of the victorious